Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm 29 years old and I have two ridiculously beautiful and energetic boys, Silas and Toby, and I have a wonderful husband of 8 years, Jason. We live here in Walnut Grove. We go actually to this church, North Langley Community Church, and I'm a nurse and work at Vancouver General Hospital. And as you can tell, we're going to be a family of 5. In 5 short weeks, they say it's a baby girl. And all I can say is it's about time that some pink entered my house. A little bit about me. I love baking and writing. I write on a blog. I love reading. I love being creative. I love to be outside in nature. I love community. And I absolutely love being a nurse. I think there's something deeply profound about caring for people who are suffering and sick. I first read this book 7 in the summertime, actually, and recorded a bit about what I was learning through this book on my blog. I was really wanting to apply some of what I learned, and so I decided to take a month and not spend any money. It was really challenging, and I learned a lot, but I'm not sure that any of the lessons I learned really stuck with me, so when they approached me from Breakaway in December and said, "Hey, do you want to read this book and take on this challenge again?" I was like, yeah, maybe this time I'll make some lasting changes and learn something really profound. And so I said yes. But when they asked, I was in the middle of indulging and binging on Christmas cookies, and they told me to cut back and re-examine my food practices, which I was like, no. Because that was my first reaction, was no, because I'm obviously very pregnant and I thought that doesn't seem like a very good idea. Jen Hatmaker in her book lived off of 7 food items for a month, and I was thinking there's no way that I'm just going to live off of chicken breast and sweet potatoes. But as I was looking back through the book and through the chapter on food, I was re-inspired by something that she wrote, and I'm just going to share that quote with you. She said, "Maybe food simplification is a good idea for all of us, and for more than one reason. Spiritual clarity and health come to mind, waste reduction and time management and financial responsibility and gratefulness deserve some line space too. There are other things, but that's a decent start list." So I decided to go ahead with this challenge anyways, but chose to not be as extreme as her. I was kind of curious if I could actually simplify and cut back on some of the food excesses in my life. So as soon as January 1st hit, I decided to refrain from indulging in my most favorite and least necessary food choices. For me, chocolate is the first thing. If you know me at all, I'm pretty sure that you'll have to pry my hands off of a piece of chocolate on my deathbed because I love chocolate that much. Dark chocolate, love it. So that was the first thing I decided that I should cut out. The second thing is sugar. I also love sugar. That's probably 2/3 of what I eat. Seriously. So that I knew was going to be challenging for me. The third thing is processed snacks. I consider us a pretty healthy family, but I also have a very busy life and 2 very busy boys, and so it's just easy and convenient. And seriously, what is there to eat except processed snacks? So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is eating out. We don't do that a lot as a family, but we do definitely grab things on the run, like probably most of you. And so I thought I would try and take out that convenience. The fifth one, which I could probably cry over, is getting a coffee out, a fancy coffee, I call it. I am not a makeup girl. I'm not a fashion girl. I don't love getting my nails done. I don't love getting my hair done. I just want a cup of coffee from Starbucks when I'm having a bad day with little boys. So that was the other thing I was going to cut out. That's number 5. Number 6 was cereal. Maybe that seems funny, but ever since nursing babies late in the night, that has become a midnight tradition, which isn't very healthy. But anyways, and the last thing was just drinking anything other than water. So those were the 7 things I decided to cut out for a month. At first, this seemed like an easy challenge. I'm a busy mom. I just wasn't really thinking about it. Oh, no big deal. But that lasted about a day. And you could probably see me multiple times in the day, slamming the pantry shut and moaning to my husband, "There's nothing for me to eat. There's nothing for me to eat." So that was the beginning. Funny enough, I started actually enjoying other things, though. I started eating oranges like candy, and I found that the one time that I actually snuck 3 packages of sugar in my coffee at work, I'm confessing, it just was remarkably sweet, and I wanted to spit it out because it was so sweet. But sometimes excuse bells started ringing in my head, and every possible reason for me not to do this challenge would be screaming for my attention. Like, what does it really matter what I eat? What does it matter what my family eats anyways, I'd ask myself. If I don't have some kind of other reason, for health reasons or for dietary reasons or for budget reasons, why would I cut back? Why would I reduce? What's the point? After one particularly weak moment, I even convinced my husband to buy a coffee for me from Starbucks as a gift, which he lovingly obliged with, but obviously being legalistic wasn't going to teach me anything. But through the highs and lows of the month, I started to reflect a little bit deeper and just started asking myself, what is it about this that is so hard? Why is it so hard? It's just 7 food simplifications for a month. What is at the heart of my need to buy and want and have more and however much I want when I want it? I realized I can't really simply blame our cultural norms for excess or social media like Pinterest or advertising or anything else on this need to consume. The real reason I want more and why I want to have what I want to have when I want to have it comes from the very center of my heart. And the real reason is because I'm greedy and I want control, and I'm ungrateful for what I have most of the time. Food excess is complicated and multi-layered. I overeat and overbuy and waste because I'm often thankless and feel entitled. When I feel lonely, I want to reach in the cupboard and grab a handful of chocolate chips. When I'm having a rough day, I want to go to Starbucks and have a warm drink. And when I'm feeling disappointed or want the comfort of, I don't know, just any snack from the pantry, it's so easy to just grab and take and want more. Not only do I want, I thanklessly feel entitled to it. And too often, I don't even think I know what I really need or what I actually just want, or even what line is enough. Simplifying for so long was like a bad word to me. It signifies loss and hardship and sacrifice and less. It's like the word dieting in our culture. It's got such baggage to it. But I came away from a month of simplifying realizing that, in fact, maybe there's a number of things I can actually gain from simplifying. That actually, it might not be a loss or a sacrifice at all, but might actually help me live more closely to a balanced and healthy lifestyle. So as I was reflecting on this month, I was thinking about what I might gain from continuing to try and simplify in some of our food choices. And the first thing that I think I might gain from simplifying is just a greater sense of gratitude and true compassion for those who have less than we do. It's pretty easy to live completely oblivious to the fact that for most people in the world, food is not available to them at their fingertips. Even the fact that I waste food or overindulge at all would probably seem completely atrocious to people who can't even afford to feed themselves or their own families. Scarcity and hunger and poverty and need define so many food cycles in the world, not abundance and overeating and want, which define ours. We've all seen this poverty and we know it exists, and we know that we're probably the rich people of the world. But how often does that knowledge actually lead us to live differently and make different everyday choices? I know for me it certainly doesn't affect a lot of what I do. During this month of simplifying, it really had me reflecting on an incredible experience that my husband and I had early in our marriage when we lived in West Africa, a really poor area of West Africa, for 6 months. How quickly I forgot how differently their culture's relationship with food is than ours. I started looking back at pictures of how they live and comparing to how we live now. They eat seasonally. Food is feasted on rarely and in close community only. And food is not relied on for comfort as much as for function. Food is appreciated, it is respected, it is shared. I love how they eat there. This one bowl of porridge-like food in the middle and a bowl of sauce and all their hands reaching in together around this pot, sharing this meal together in community. Their sense of hospitality is remarkable. Kind of wonder, when did food become the end in itself and not the means of community and fellowship? Now, before you think that I executed this month perfectly, I need to pause and just confess that my son Silas celebrated his 4th birthday in January, and I had already planned most of his party before I had been given this opportunity to simplify my food choices. And it was a baking party was the theme, and so here I was in the middle of my month, eating some, not just one, but eating some cupcakes. And I'm telling you that I'm not really a saint, and I enjoyed every second of eating those cupcakes, those beautiful cupcakes. And I didn't really feel guilty, but in the middle of a reflective month on food, it did seem a little outrageous that here I was decorating cupcakes with 10 or more, probably more, kinds of sprinkles, which we all know are nutritionally empty. And at the same time, other mothers around the world are struggling to feed their children and choosing which child they're going to let starve because they can't afford to feed all of their kids. Now, I don't think feeling guilty about what I have is the point, and I don't really think that that's Jen Hatmaker's point either. I think that, however, I do probably need to express gratitude and appreciation for what I have and not always demand more. And, that's a good place for me to start, is just recognizing my wealth in the food that I have. The second thing I might gain from simplifying in the area of food is the joy of fasting, of anticipation, of waiting, of refraining, of self-control. I think there's a real movement in this generation to simplify and cut back and live minimally, and just for our own sake. I think too much doesn't create a culture of generosity, but it creates a culture of comparison and greed and ingratitude. What I miss most about the life that we had in Africa was the anticipation we had for simple pleasures. We lived about 500 kilometers from the capital city in a very rural area where we did not have access to a lot of choices, and we really didn't even have the opportunity for consumerism or comparison. We only had what was available there, and that was very little. And so anytime we would go back to the capital city, we would so look forward in great anticipation for the pleasures that we can indulge in the city. Things like a new book or a new video that we could borrow from somebody else, or just food that wasn't in a can or seasonally available. I remember one time we went to the local market, and every single vendor had watermelon. That was the only thing that was seasonally available, so that was the only thing we could buy. It almost seems to me that being able to have any pleasures whenever I want actually negates the pleasure itself. Somehow it's worth less. It's less satisfying. Anytime you've ever done something incredibly physically strenuous and you were so hungry and you actually had a meal afterwards, it's so satisfying. For example, the best meals I have ever tasted were in the hospital. And no, I don't mean hospital food. After the birth of my first son, which was 25 hours of labor and then an emergency C-section, my mom came with a homemade quiche. And I kid you not, I probably could have kissed it. It was the most delightful, memorable meal. It was so tasty. The same thing happened with my second son, much of the same chain of events. And a friend had brought to the hospital this roasted chicken with roasted sweet potatoes, and I could probably cry. It was that good. And I dream about it. Anyways, these meals were so incredibly satisfying because I waited so long to eat them, and there was this sense of anticipation and this hard work that was endured in order to enjoy the meal. I guess it's kind of the third thing I think that I might gain, or my family might gain, from simplifying, is just truly enjoying feasting. I read this quote from a book called Extending the Table. It's a cookbook, a Mennonite cookbook, and there's this quote that says, "When affluence allows people to feast too frequently and independently of others, feasting loses much of its joy and integrity. It results in ill health and dulls our sensitivity to the needs of others. Reclaiming the feast may require learning to fast. Regularly abstaining from meat and other rich foods can be a spiritual act of solidarity. Reserving for special events foods we might easily afford, but that are luxury items in the world economy, unites us with those who have less. As we learn to fast with the poor, let us also learn their patterns of feasting and celebration. Let us be content with ordinary food on ordinary days." I was thinking that maybe only feasting in the company of others would give us greater joy. Think of every meaningful time of fellowship you've shared, and it's probably been over a communal meal. What is the point of all of this? Good question. I was hoping for some really deep, insightful, penetrating life lesson to share with you, or some really quick and easy fix-it or change that I'm going to incorporate. And instead, at the end of this month of Simplifying, my 4-year-old son just got diagnosed with a whole bunch of intolerances with food, and so he's supposed to abstain from dairy and soy and almonds and peanuts and wheat, and the list goes on, and basically he can't eat anything. I guess maybe this month was just a preparation for the sacrifices that will be ahead in our family. All the foods that we'll have to cut back on and the indulgences we'll have to cut back on for his sake. But in case it turns out that my family won't be forced to make changes for health's sake, I kind of came up with just a few maybe statements. I'm not very good at coming up with really life-changing goals. I know myself, and I'm just not that optimistic that I'm really going to change my habits. So I just came up with a few baby step statements, I guess you could call it, towards change, and thought maybe I'd share some of my maybe statements. Maybe I need to stop saying more please and say that's enough. Maybe I need to say thank you more. Maybe I need to anticipate and wait longer before satisfying cravings that I have. Maybe I need to share more meals with others around my table, and where it's not about the food that I've put there and how fancy or complicated it is, but when it's about the people around the table and community and hospitality. Maybe I need to teach my kids the same thing, that feasting is not an everyday thing. It's a special thing for special occasions with family and friends. Maybe I just need to eat what's in season and stop indulging in things that aren't. Maybe I need to operate with more self-control and let myself be hungry so that the next meal is that much more satiating. What about you? Where do you see excess in your food choices? How might you be able to simplify? What reasons might motivate you to make changes in the choices that you make for health, for your budget, maybe just to simplify so that you have a greater sense of gratitude for the things that we have? Pick one small step to make and one little change and see where this journey takes you. Thanks for listening to my own journey.